Okay, so what's your name and graduation year?
My name is Debbie Hutton Pratt, and I graduated in 1969.
That's cool. What major historical moments happened in your high school career?
Oh, wow. Well, I wasn't expecting that question, so I'll have to think about that for a moment. Obviously, we were in the 60s, and so there was a lot involving the Vietnam War and a lot of turmoil with civil rights. And so there was just a lot going on in the 60s, as I'm sure you're aware. And but being in high school, I would have to admit that we weren't always as tuned in as maybe we should have been as to political things happening, but that's pretty much what went on.
So you were involved with like a lot of art-based extracurriculars. What was it like to be a part of those programs in the 60s?
I absolutely loved being in the choir and in debutees and in the school musicals. It was the most fun, and we had just a great group of kids that we were really good friends, and besides classmates. And we had a great teacher in Jerry Robertson, and he really promoted, excellence and expected excellence, but that was good because then the productions that we did and the concerts that we performed were very professional, and I loved it. It was great.
What was the school atmosphere like?
Everybody was very much supportive of both the football and basketball teams, and there were other sports, but I will have to say that those two were king, and especially basketball in the 60s were extremely, that was the thing that everybody on Friday night, you knew where you were going to be. You were going to be at the basketball game. And I was lucky enough to be a cheerleader, but had I not been a cheerleader, I still would have certainly been there. We had a big cheer block. They wore capes so that they all looked alike, and the pep band was there, and the gym was sold out every single time. So much different than it is today. And I'm not saying it was better, but it certainly was a lot of fun.
What was your favorite class?
As far as favorite classes, I may have had two. I really liked English class, and I had Miss Shirley Leister, and I absolutely loved her. And I had Joe Dutton, and he was a wonderful English teacher. I had him my senior year, and I had Miss Leister my junior year, and I loved the English classes. And in fact, I minored in English in college. But what I majored in college was U.S. History and Government and Economics, because probably my favorite teacher was Leon Hoffman, who taught social studies, mostly U.S. history, and he really made history come to life for me, and I really loved it. So that's what I majored in, and after I graduated from college, I went on to teach U.S. history, government, and economics.
What were your favorite places to eat out with your friends?
Frisch's Big Boy, which was on 25th Street. It's where the Rickers is currently. That was a real hot spot. And Northside Drugs, which is where Camilla's is now, over in the 25th Street Shopping Center, that was a drugstore. And they had a counter where you could buy, burgers and fries and stuff. And so we'd often go over there and hang out. But that was pretty much it. No, there's one more spot. And that, I guess, was the biggest one of all, was the A&W root beer stand. And that's where it currently is still. Mm-hmm. But the big thing on Friday and Saturday night, either after the ball game or if there wasn't a ball game that night, was to just cruise around 25th Street and cruise through that A&W root beer parking lot, and that's where all your friends could be found.
Do you happen to remember who the principal was when you graduated?
I do. Oh my gosh, but I've just drawn a blank. I can picture him. Judson Earn, yes. Judson Earn, he was the principal, and he had a cute saying that he would come on in the morning with his announcements, and he would always say, 99% of you are just wonderful students, and you behave and you do what you want to, but there's that 1%. And it was always the 1% that he was kind of worried about and so forth. So we always kind of laughed about, we didn't want to be in the 1% for sure.
Did you have a senior project?
No, we did not have senior projects. I am well aware of those because part of the time that I worked for the school corporation for 38 years. And I worked at Columbus East and also here at Columbus North with the C4 classes. And so I'm well aware of the senior projects that students now do. But no, we didn't have anything. Our big thing was the senior term paper that we had to do, where we had to go to the library and go through all these index cards and stuff. That we didn't have computers or anything like or the internet or anything, so it all had to be done in the library manually to look up information and so forth. So doing a term paper was our big kind of senior project, if you want to call it.
What were some of the hot styles then?
Hot styles were, well, we would like to have worn shorter skirts, but the rule was that you had to get on your knees, and if your skirt didn't touch the floor when you were on your knees, you got sent home. So what we would do sometimes is our skirts would be long enough, but then when we knew nobody was watching, we'd roll the waistband up to make them shorter, and then we would, go on to class or whatever. And then when we were back out in the halls and we thought we might see the dean of girls or something, we'd roll them back down, so we were more proper. So certainly pleated skirts, kilts were popular, and then sweaters. Mostly, skirts and sweaters. We weren't allowed to wear pants, so we didn't wear jeans or pants or anything. You had to wear a skirt or a dress. So that's what we wore.
Do you remember what your yearbook looked like when you were in high school?
I do, because we're getting ready to celebrate our 50th graduation from high school in 1969, and in 2019 that'll be 50 years. Can't believe it. But anyway, so I've had my yearbook out a lot recently because I'm on the committee planning the reunion, and it was an olive green yearbook, and we got them after graduation. I don't know when you guys get yours now, but because they wanted to include like spring sports and spring activities like prom and so forth in the yearbooks, we didn't get them till later in the summer. And so our senior year, we didn't get very many signatures in our yearbook because everybody was going their own ways, at that time. Like junior year when we got them in the summer, we were going to still start friends, in the fall back here at the schools, and we could get more signatures and notes to each other in our yearbooks. But anyway, that's what it was.
Do you know how many people were in your school compared to today?
Well, we only had 3 grades, sophomore, junior, senior, and for the whole school, I don't know, but in our graduating class, there were 780. And we actually only came to school a half a day. Both my junior year and senior year, I was on what they called an athletic schedule because I was a cheerleader, and the athletes and cheerleaders and other people as well, we came to school at 7:30 and we were dismissed at 12:30, and that included lunch. So we had a very abbreviated day. There were no study halls or anything. I mean, you were back-to-back classes, but that was the only way they could get everybody in school. There were just too many students, and that's why they then built Columbus East, was because the school was just too big. The number of students were too big for just one school to accommodate.